Welcome to the Dice Tower, a series of video reviews about board and card games. Here are your hosts, Tom Vasel and Sam Healey.
Hey folks, how you doing? Welcome to the Dice Tower. Today we're going to be taking a look at Pandemic in the Lab. I am Zee Garcia.
And I'm Tom Vasel. And Pandemic in the Lab.
Wow, just
And there's someone else.
And I am Sam Healey.
All right.
This is what we call the transitional episode. But anyhow,
I'm taking over, baby.
Pandemic in the Lab is the second expansion for Pandemic. It's the first one for the new Pandemic that just came out this year.
The reprint.
This is the first new one for that, and I'm hoping kind of the last one. No. I don't mean that, but we played it and I said, I think we're good.
Okay.
I don't think Pandemic needs 80 expansions, or even 3.
Okay.
The first expansion for Pandemic, as a reminder, added a bunch of roles, added a bioterrorist, and added some really freaky ways that the disease could spread out. There was There was a fifth color. There was mutated. It was basically for people. There were a couple people who were sitting around yawning about how easy Pandemic was, and that basically picked them up and smacked them in the face and said, "You thought it was hard? You'll never beat this."
It was called On the Brink.
Yeah, it should have been called Suck It Haters or something to that effect.
On the other side of the brink, you are now falling headlong into something bad.
Well, anyway, let's take a
Not
look
as
at
pithy, but
this one. Adds several modules, although one of the modules is basically the whole point of this one. So that's basically what we're going to take a look at. Here we go. There's a lot that comes in this game, but let's focus on some of the smaller elements first. All right? First of all, there's a couple extra epidemic cards, virulent strains, that you will use only if you are using the one from the first one, On the Brink. And some extra mutation cards for the same reason, for the purple. In fact, it comes with some extra purple cubes for that matter. There's a CDC, Central Disease Control, which is used in a solo game. The game now has a solo version that you can play. You pick one character and you use the CDC as like an extra action. Then there is a team game. You split everybody up into groups of 2. Each team gets their own research station. It has its little marker on it so you can tell which research station is which. Each team gets a secret goal, like you're trying to cure different diseases. For each disease you cure, you get 2 points, etc., etc. And as you cure things, you will also get these here. And then there's bonus cards that are added to the deck to help everybody out. Each team gets a total of 6 actions on your turn. It costs extra actions if you want to share information with someone from another team. You still can all lose, or you can all win, and then if you all win, you see which team has the most points. It's ridiculous. I don't even know what the point of this is. But anyhow, you can do that. Let's get to the actual meat of this expansion. There's some extra event cards that come in this expansion. The extra event cards are always great and fun. Now, we're going to be taking a look at this expansion here, and just for the record, I don't use cubes anymore. I use the little virus tokens from Litco that show different virus things. It's the same thing as cubes, but you're going to add this extra board here next to the board. This is the lab board. And in this game, you'll be doing a lot of actions in the lab, hence the name of the expansion. So you'll have to visit a lab on the board to do many of the expansions. In fact, when you build a lab, you get a free action in the lab when you do that. Now, in the original game, you had to discard 5 cards of the same color to be able to cure a disease. Now you do it differently. First of all, whenever you treat disease on the board, whenever you remove one of these from the board, you throw it in one of these 2 initial petri dishes. So you can, as you're treating diseases going around, you can throw one of them. So if you treat 2, you just throw one of them into a dish. When you're in the lab, you can move these tokens from one petri dish to another. But before you do that, you're going to want to do something very important, and that is find out what kind of disease it is. You're going to start the game with one of these sequence diseases up here. Here's an example of a sequence disease. This one shows all different colors. This one shows 2 colors. This one here shows all the colors again, and sometimes they only show 1 color. And for one action in the lab, you can put a new card out. You can actually be working on 2 of these at one time, or you can be working on, or you can replace one that you've already put out. So, as you put these out, and these cards go here, by the way, you want to first characterize the disease. What kind of disease is it? Well, this one can only be blue, but this one could be any color. To characterize a disease, you must play a card of that color. So let's say for down here, I characterize this disease as black. That disease is now black, and that means that the gray spots here must be black. To help us remember that, besides the black card, this game comes with these cool little vials, and you just put one there to show that this is now the black disease. When I characterize this one at the top as a blue disease, and you have to characterize them, you can't just ignore the fact that that's obviously a blue. Once I characterize it, I would put blue up there to show that that's a blue disease. So I want to cure these diseases. Well, once I have them characterized, I can start moving these tokens, cubes, from dish to dish. When you move tokens from one dish to another dish, you can move all of one color, which goes to this dish up here, or you can move one of each color to this dish over here. Now, whenever you move, all the cubes that you can't move are lost. And you gotta be careful, because you can get so many cubes wrapped up in here, you can lose the game from not having enough cubes to put on the board. Once the cubes are in these dishes here, they're able to go to the cards themselves, or you can put them into this dish here, which will effectively double them, which it takes an extra action to move them to that dish. Then when you move them from here to the cards, you will place them on the matching colors on those cards. And that once all the cards on that, once all the spots on a card are finished, you have a chance then to cure the disease. But before you cure the disease, you must field test the disease. So let's say, for example, this is a black disease here. So I play a Moscow card, and I field test the disease, and then I can take a black cube off anywhere on the board. So of course I'm going to take it off here from Calcutta, because they're about to go over. And that's a way you're basically just field treating the disease. Once that is done, once you have every spot here on the board is filled up. So let's say I have a blue and a red, 4 yellows and 2 blacks. I now have the disease. I have the cubes I need on the disease. I have characterized it. I have field tested it. Now I simply discover the cure by playing 3 more cards of that color. So I need to play 3 more black cards of that color, or if you're playing with a scientist roll, 2 more black cards. When that's done, the disease is cured. I will place the vial over on the main board over here, and if I eradicate it, I will flip it over to show that it is also eradicated. Everything else is pretty much treated the same way. They replace 2 of the roles from the original game that you will use when you're using this version only. So here we have the researcher who can do what she normally does, but she can also sequence a disease for free when she's at a research station. Or the skin doctor here, who can once a turn, they can process a sample at a research station for free. It's kind of odd that they added these 2, but they didn't add the scientist, because the scientist is the person who needs only 4 cards instead of 5. Now the scientist needs only 2 cards when at an action rather than 3. I don't know why they didn't replace that card for this purposes. They also include 4 completely new players with tokens that you can use. The local liaison here is very useful, because she can also do characterize a disease or test a cure as a free action, but she can also give city cards that match the color of the city she's in to a player in any city of the same color. So she has a lot easier way of passing cards off to other players. Still seems a little weak. The virologist is pretty cool. She can discard 2 city cards of the same color to replace 1 city card of the cure color. So it's easier for her to cure if she has 2 cards that you don't need anymore. This is a great way to get rid of them. And she can discard a city card to remove a cube of its color from any city. That's really neat. I really like that. And sometimes that can come in really handy. as an action. Field director can treat a disease in a city connected to the city he's in. That's useful. And can move people with him. That's not as cool, though, as the pilot himself, who can jump 3 spots on the board instead of normal movement, and he can take another player with him. So he's able to move rapidly all over the board without research stations. In fact, he can't use research stations, and take other players with him. Mix the pilot with the medic for a lot of fun. So this is all that's included in this game. You can see there's a lot going on all over the place with pieces, and there's really cool components here. And most of the stuff is minor except for this in the lab. This is the main thing that changes the game. Actually discuss mostly the in the lab module. The whole team, I think the whole team thing is dumb. I mean, I just think it's dumb.
Well, first of all, let's list the ones that come in here. We have in the lab, which, like you said, is the big one, the main one.
Right, we'll come back to that one.
There's team game, where now you can play a group of people versus another group, but they are both still trying to save the world. And there's a scoring mechanism now. You'll actually keep score.
As they know, because I just showed them that.
And solo. And which was a weird addition.
I don't even know what the point of it was. You could already play it solo.
Yeah, and then what's the other one?
Oh, it added some new stuff. There was new.
Oh, and you could play with all the purple cubes.
Right.
And that spin. But yeah, I mean the big one, the one that adds the board, everything. I mean the main point here is clearly in the lab, and I, for one, think it's a great addition to the game.
Right. I mean, if you don't want, if the in the lab part doesn't interest you, I don't see that you should even get this.
Yeah, yeah. The rest is not really. The rest is like gravy on top of the meal, and the rest is not worth it on its own. Absolutely.
My initial impressions when I was looking over the rules and the board and everything, I thought, wow, this just complicates the game. Mm-hmm. But it's so strongly thematic.
It is.
I will now pass that ball to Sam.
Thank you very much. You bunch of haters. This drips and oozes theme. You stupid people.
What? You can't call people stupid?
Yes, I can. I just did.
Are we meta listing here? Is that what
Yes,
this
we
is?
are meta listing. If you enjoy Pandemic, remember that list we did a while ago?
A top 10 thematic games.
No, not thematic games. I'm talking a little bit before. I'll come back to the thematic games list. The one we did where it says top 10 expansions that you must get for the game.
Yes.
Okay.
Really?
Here we go.
You feel that strongly
You need
about
to
it?
get this because it replaces that tomfoolery of just turning in 5 games.
5 cards.
I'm sorry, five cards, turning in 5 cards to cure a disease. Okay, that worked with the first, but...
So you're saying the theme in this just kicks it up to a whole other level.
My heave to a completely another level, another echelon. All you guys, you haters. That's what you are.
Okay, we got the haters part.
Haters.
Okay.
Pandemic is now like theme rockin'. So, yeah, go on.
Okay. Well, I'll say this: the board at first. The word originally seemed to be, oh my god, this game is now so ridiculously difficult with this extra board, with this extra stuff.
It seems like that.
It feels like, oh boy, this is going to be way slower and more difficult, but I've played now over a dozen times and it's about the same.
But there's some positive things to it also.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean now you can share the 5 cards. You know what I mean? You don't have to like let's meet up over here and trade a card. I mean, you can still do that, and you might still need to do that.
Yeah.
But the fact that someone can test the disease, someone can characterize it, someone else, a third person, can come in and actually find the cure. I like that.
And even that testing the disease can save your butt somewhere because you can grab a cube from
anywhere. Right.
It's a big deal.
So absolutely, the timing implications of that I think are amazing. It's like here's all these extra, strategic choices you can make. Explore,
Yeah.
And that's great. I mean, knowing when to push the cubes along from petri dish to petri dish, that matters because you have to put something back. If you choose to move a single color, something might go back. You have to decide when to do that. Since you have to move everything over. If you keep curing and putting cubes in there, you might just be throwing them away, basically, like just putting them back, So the timing is just through the roof.
You also have to keep an eye on how many of the suppliers out there. You can't have too many cubes in the petri dishes because that takes away from the supply.
Right.
If you have to add from the supply and there ain't nothing there,
Right.
toast, you're done.
Absolutely.
Well, let me ask you both this then. If you're going to play we all agree this is a great expansion.
Yes.
All right. But if you're going to play with someone who's never played Pandemic before, would you introduce it to them with this expansion?
Yes,
No.
I would.
All right.
Here's why. And now I'm going to get to what I think is the negative, my negatives for this. The roles that have new powers that give you a bonus free action are clunky, they're hard to remember. People are always like, okay, when do I do it? How do I remember I did it because it doesn't count against my 5, and there's no physical card I'm discarding like the other events. You know, when you do an event, you go, boom, that was free, but the card's out of your hand. You know you did it. I've played it a bunch of times, and it's always an issue. Someone's always like, wait, I already did this. Did I do it? Can I do the free lab action now? So we ended up just like putting a token on it, you know, and it's fine. It's a fix, but it's clunky. And I get it. It's a balance thing, but it has that same thing that Flashpoint Fire Rescue does, where those characters, almost every character in that game has a bonus action that doesn't count, and it's a pain. You have to be like, wait, did we do that? You know, I don't like that too much. That's my main pet peeve, I think.
Is that a minor pet peeve?
That's a fairly minor pet peeve, but I would not introduce the game to someone new with all these new rules. There are a lot of rules. And again, some of the things in it just feel like they lacked a little streamlining. Like when you build a free, not a free one, but when you build a research station, you get that one free lab action. That takes forever. I always forget that. I always have to go back halfway through the next turn and go, oh, wait, we had to do this.
Yeah, you can't afford to miss it.
Right. It's just, you know, again, those things I feel like Pandemic, the original, the beauty was the streamline aspect of it. And now I feel like a little bit of that is lost. Is it worth it to get all this wonderful theme into it? Yes. But be aware, if you like Pandemic because you like that beautiful streamlined, you know, through line storytelling of it, you're going to lose some of that. You know, there will be a little clunkiness that comes with all of this great theme.
All right.
I don't think it's clunkiness. I mean, I'm gonna defend myself a little bit. I mean, I agree with what he says. It is a little there's a little bit more maintenance, I guess you could say, from turn to turn. But I think that the rules that this game replaces from the original game, turning in the cards and that type of stuff, the rules that get replaced kind of make up for the stuff that gets added. There's a little bit, there's enough give and take there to where I don't think you're going to add a whole lot of rules to a first timer. The basic way you play the game is really the same. You just have the extra little petri dish thing going on.
Right.
So I don't think there's enough, and for the amount of theme that this adds to the game, I don't see why you wouldn't introduce the game like this, because why didn't they make the game like this to begin with? That's my question.
I don't know. See, I'm kind of halfway between you. I can understand why I wouldn't want to teach all those rules. That's a lot to grasp.
Yeah. When
we played this, it was easy to say, okay, you know this, we're replacing it with this.
Right.
Yeah, to add in all that new stuff, I don't know.
But that's the thing. You don't have to explain what it replaces. You just explain what you do now.
Even some of the new roles are a little. They're more difficult for new players, like the chopper pilot. That's an awesome thing, right? To be able to fly and take people with you. I love that. But if this is your first time, that's a confusing one to know what to do.
Right.
So you knew what you're doing, like, oh, grab the medic, take him, go. It made sense. But you got to be really careful.
No, I just think, again, that what it replaces to what it gives you, I mean, what it replaces is literally discard 5 cards to find a cure. What you replace that with, that's several paragraphs of explanations. There is all the cube movement. There's a lot. There's a lot.
Maybe I just have more faith in the people I play games with.
That could be.
But that's us. Woohoo!
Oh, right.
All right. So anyhow, okay, final opinions. For me, I very much like this. I think it's better than the second expansion because it adds a lot more. You're right. It's better than the first expansion. The first expansion just added more stuff and added a bunch of stuff that I'll never use. I'll never use the bioterrorists probably ever again. I'll use the mutated stuff once in a while. The biggest thing about the first expansion was I loved all the new roles.
Okay.
That was my big thing there.
And there are more of those in that game than in this one.
Right. And this one has fewer new roles, but this one has that hole in the lab thing. I like it a lot. I think it adds a lot. I think it pumps up the theme. I think it's pretty close to essential. So I'm going to give it 2 vials of deadly toxins up.
That was going to be my scale.
Was
Well,
it?
Yeah.
You go ahead.
Well,
do yours.
here's what I think. On the brink, for me, that is about as essential as it gets for an expansion. And you're right. Some of the parts you barely use. Like the Bioterrorist, I think I've done it twice. It's okay. Clunky. But the mutated disease, what is that called? The strain, whatever. That is amazing. That's my favorite part of that. The in the lab in here, I don't think is quite as good as that.
Really?
For such a small change that added so much in the first one, this is a big change that adds a lot. And that's great, but it is a big change. So I could see the possibility of you not liking the game anymore if you liked Pandemic and you play this. So I would say amazing. I love it. I love it. But I could see someone out there being, this is not Pandemic anymore. I want my old game back. So try before you buy, you know. That's my...
That should go
but,
without saying, though.
No, I mean, the first one I would say get it. You like Pandemic, you can get the first expansion. This one...
Because it doesn't really change the game, you know.
But it adds so much, you know.
Yeah.
So again, I give it also 2 disgusting influenza vials up. But...
Oh, wow, top mine. Mine was anonymous. But go ahead.
But yeah, it's amazing. Just make sure you like it before you get it. That's my only caveat.
All right, do some gushing.
All right, here we go. If you don't get this
I'm gonna find you.
until your entrails or your extrails, pain, lots and lots of pain.
I'm scared.
Just kidding. I'm not going to come get you. But, however, you need to
thing.
get this. You need to get this. It is an awesome expansion. If you enjoy Pandemic, forget what this guy says. You'll love this. It will add theme. It will add a little complexity, but I think a little complexity is good for every gamer's heart. I'm going to give this expansion 2 child prodigy biochemists up.
And that is the second expansion for Pandemic. We'll see you next time.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.